Hey there guys, welcome back to Pickleball Paddle Reviews, and today I'll be doing my long overdue review of the Flik F1. They come in three shapes: the wide body, the standard, and the elongated. And all three are full foam paddles with carbon faces, and they got a very similar build to the True Foam Genesis. They have EPP foam as its core, and also it has a fiberglass patch. I'm gonna throw up on the screen the stats of all three paddles. Now, what you're gonna notice immediately is the price. Mainly that the standard shape and the wide body shape are $95 and the elongated is actually $190. Now the reason for that is the wide body and the standard shape are not USAP approved. They did not receive approval for these two shapes. So for rec play, these are actually a great deal at $95. The one I do recommend going for is the wide body. You kind of get the benefit of it having a wider sweet spot, just slightly over the standard shape. And these have a very narrow sweet spot. So having that wider sweet spot, just even by a little bit, helps quite a bit. And also, I think it is just easier to learn with the wide body. Unless you're a very advanced player, then I would definitely just say go for the elongated. If you're intermediate to advanced and you're real serious, you should definitely not go for any of these two since you can't bring them to tournaments, and just go with the elongated. All right, so I ended up mainly playing with the elongated. I did play with the wide body and standard for about 2 to 3 hours each, but in the end, I ended up playing mostly with the elongated. Now, I'm gonna go through a quick story time. These paddles were not easy to play with. The Flik F1 was pretty much my first foam paddle after the True Foam Genesis, and I thought it was going to be very similar in feel and response, but I was completely wrong. These paddles are completely different. The feeling is a lot stiffer. You don't really get as much feedback as the True Foam Genesis, where you can really pocket the ball and kind of control the speed and the ball as you're hitting it. This just has a very different response. Every time you hit it, it kind of feels the same. So I had to actually put way more hours into it. That's why this is a 30-hour review instead of my typical 10-hour review with the paddle. I needed that extra time to really develop my skill with this and understand how to play with foam. Luckily, there were so many foam releases at the time, so I got to also play with other foam paddles that helped me build the skill to actually play with this. Now, bringing up the point of getting the skill to play with this, I do think if you are a tennis player, this is probably a worthwhile look because this is great for ground strokes. Just power hits in general, this thing is absolutely insane. I think it might even be more powerful than the boomstick. The boomstick, I think, relies more on its poppiness to generate that speed and power, whereas this, you really need to put in that effort to give it that speed, but that speed is very top tier. This is actually one of the paddles, when I do serve speed tests, that is the most consistently fast on the radar. So if there are paddles that I hit with that do get faster speed sometimes than the F1, but this will always maintain that speed range very well. So definitely this has potential to be a very, very good weapon for, I think, a very, very skilled singles or heavy, hard drive hitter. So let's get into my first impressions. Like I said, when I first got this, I hit some drives and I was like, this thing is absolutely insane. But then when I got into resets, dinks, and drops, this was definitely much harder. Immediately, I felt like, just like Chris Olsen said in Pickleball Studio when he reviewed this, it felt like your duper drops by half a point when you first start learning to play with this. That's because it's so hard to control that pop or sensation from the paddle face when you're hitting softly, because off-center hits not on that fiberglass patch still kind of feels the same throughout the entire paddle face. So you're not actually understanding very quickly, hey, how come that was a miss hit and that one wasn't? So in the beginning, if you're not used to foam, if you're not used to that feedback or feeling, it's gonna be very jarring. And for me, especially that first 2 to 3 hours that I was playing with it, trying to set up drops or resets was very, very frustrating. I was trying to get into the kitchen and this paddle was not being agreeable. And so I did put it down for a while and I would pick it up and the same thing would happen. But over time, I finally got an understanding for it. I did end up having to add a little bit of weight. It probably doesn't need it. Honestly, drives do go sailing many times on this paddle. If you hit it way too hard, if you hit it too hard at all, it does sail some balls. All right, so let's get into the review. For ground strokes, you know, your forehands, backhands, overheads, at the net flicks, all kind of power shots, I think this paddle is top tier. Top tier for sure. You're definitely gonna feel like you're getting plenty of power, plenty of speed coming from this paddle. And the best part is you really, really don't have to swing that hard to get that speed. Now, you do want to swing hard with this paddle because you want to end points with those power shots. This paddle will tempt you because you're just seeing those shots go so fast to swing harder. And that can be a blessing in disguise or not. Sometimes it works out well and sometimes it doesn't. For me, in the beginning, it did not work out well because every now and then I would swing way too hard and it would just go floating out of bounds. And then sometimes I wouldn't be swinging hard enough where my opponents would be able to return that shot properly. And now I'd have to come up to the net and start dinking with them. And like I said in the beginning, it was hard to get up to the net and start dinking with this. Now with serves, like I said, this serves consistently fast. Even without a very powerful swing, you're gonna see that you're able to serve quickly with good angles. This is great for angle shots. I do find that I could probably do better line drives with some other paddles. This is fine, but this is not as good as line drives than other power paddles that I've tried with. I'm not exactly sure why, but I did find it a little harder to get that speed output from line drives on this. Now, getting into the soft game, when you first get this paddle, it could be very difficult. And that's mainly because of that feel. You're not really getting a different feel hitting off the sweet spot on this Flik F1. It kind of feels the same everywhere. And I think that's because of how dense that foam is and it's not very forgiving in any way. So because you're hitting off center sometimes and you're not able to tell that you're hitting off center, it is very dependent on you hitting the sweet spot to get that consistency with this paddle. So I would say if you get this paddle and you do feel a little frustrated, you should give it more time so that you get used to hitting that sweet spot on here. And I do think the sweet spot's mostly in that center area where that fiberglass patch is. You definitely can tell the difference when you're driving and not hitting that area. Most of the time, you do want to hit that spot, even in drops, dinks, and resets. It gives you the most concise output. And once you're used to hitting that sweet spot on all of those hits, you're gonna feel like this is much more manageable and you can probably get the most output out of it. Now, if you're not a patient player, you don't want to learn how to play with this paddle, then I don't think this paddle is for you. I don't think this paddle is for a beginner. I don't even think for most intermediate players, this paddle's for them. This is for a player that is definitely more advanced, that can really hit hard, really likes giving their drives a lot of English, a lot of spin, a lot of power behind it. If you're able to swing really hard and give those tennis-like forehands and backhands, I think this is definitely a great one to look at. The wide body is also pretty fun because it has that lower swing weight, so it's easier to maneuver, but you get a very similar power output. So I do recommend, if you just want the Flik F1 as a recreational paddle, to actually go look at that wide body, because that one, it's a little easier to learn with. Two, you can actually, swing the paddle quite fast and still get that same output. But if you are going to be serious with the Flik F1, be ready to invest some time, be ready to invest on figuring out that sweet spot, and get ready to invest some time sucking, okay? Especially if this is your first foam paddle coming from a Gen 3 paddle, it's going to kind of suck. I don't know how else to say it. It's just gonna take time and it will suck. But as the end result, as you get better with this paddle, it really does give you power. And that power output might be worthwhile if you're willing to invest that time. Thanks for watching, guys. That's my review of the Flik F1. Thank you, Flik, for sending out all 3 shapes of this paddle. If you do want to check out this paddle, I'm going to link them down below. Make sure to check out the wide body and the standard shape as well if you just want it for rec. This one definitely is for the serious player that's more advanced and really wants to learn. Now, I forgot to mention one thing. There is another benefit to playing with these Flik paddles. It's that once you learn to play with a Flik foam paddle, every other foam paddle becomes so easy to play with. And that's the honest to God truth. If you can master the Flik F1, every foam paddle after that is just so easy to learn. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to use the links in the description if you do want to check out the paddle. Lastly, we will be running a contest for a LUZZ Cannon. So I will have the links down below to enter. We're gonna be starting it now, running it till the end of October, and announcing the winner here on YouTube on November 2nd. So be sure to subscribe and also hit the notification bell to catch the announcement for the winner. The links will be down below. It's a Gleam link, so just a few things on there. Cool. Peace.